Welcome to our first week of Jolly in July. My name is Lauren. I am the fiber artist and quilter behind Garden Girl Studio. And for the month of July, I'm teaming up with Stacy from Stacy Creates Stuff to bring you all kinds of holiday crafts and creations and decorating ideas. So to get started, we are going to be making a reversible holiday party banner. On one side of the banner, we're going to have it say Merry as well as Bright. And on the other side, it's going to reverse to say Celebrate. So I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to create this reversible holiday banner. I have the pattern available in the link below. It's going to be free for you as my gift to you for the month of July. At the end of the month, it's going to be going into my online shop. So be sure to jump on it this month so that you can get access to this free downloadable pattern. You can change the colors to be a little bit more Christmassy themed, or they can match whichever holiday party or celebration occasion you want to enjoy. So without further ado, let's jump in and get started. You will need a few supplies for this project, so here are some of the things that might come in handy as you get started. You're going to need your fabric. You're also going to need an iron and either an ironing board or a heating mat. You're going to need fusible web. I like Steam-A-Seam or Steam-A-Seam 2, but today I have Heat and Bond on hand, so we're going to be using Heat and Bond and it's going to work just as great. You're also going to need some parchment paper to protect your iron from the heat and bond when we get to fusing our letters. You're going to need an erasable marking pen just to help us keep on track throughout the project. You're also going to need a sewing machine and thread, scissors, a rotary cutter, a cutting mat, and a ruler. You might also want some clips or pins handy just to keep all of your fabric in place as you sew. And when we're all done, we're going to have to string up each pendant in our banner, so you're going to need some string, and I recommend some pom-poms or scraps of fabric. These ones that I have here, I got these from Benzie. I love their felt balls and their felt products, so we're going to use these to place between each of the pendants on our banner. I will link these amazing felt balls, and they come in different sizes. We have some small ones too, but I will link these in the description below. I love that they come in these little canvas bags. They actually came like this, which is super helpful so that I can keep things nice and tidy. If you know me, you know that I like trying to keep my studio organized, and I am a messy creative person when I'm in the creative flow, so anything that I can use to help keep me more organized is appreciated. If you're not into felt balls, they're not really your thing, you can also tie scraps of fabric between each of your pendants in the banner, so to keep them in place, to keep them from moving along the banner line. That is totally an option too. And you know I love embroidery, so if there's any embellishments that you want to make, say on your applique, you might want to include those in your supplies. So you might want some embroidery floss, some beads, maybe some pearl cotton, so that you can add sprinkles to your cupcakes or a little bit of embellishment to some of the appliqued letters. And that's totally up to you. That's an optional add-on, so if that's something you want to do, be sure to have those supplies on hand as we get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is cut your fabric shapes. Again, I'm going to list here the different sizes and shapes that you are going to need in various colors. And if these are not your colors, feel free to swap out whatever color I say for your own color. Just be sure that you keep consistent and keep track of which colors you're going to use throughout the project and align them with the diagrams in the pattern. So to get started, we're actually going to start with our larger shapes. So you are going to have a whole bunch of 14 by 6-inch rectangles. These are going to be the main banners or pendants in our project. Essentially, we're going to be folding them over and they're going to be running along a string, but don't worry, we're going to sew up the edges so that we don't have any raw edges on our project. One side is going to say Celebrate and the other side is going to say Merry as well as Bright. So to get started, if you want your pendant to have kind of a fun or unique shape, we can cut off the corners of these edges, and I'll show you how to do that. So if you want your pendants to stay rectangular shape, that's totally okay. If you want them to have the corners cut off, I'm going to show you how to do that real quickly here. And this pen that I'm using, it's a Frixion pen. It comes off with heat. So when I iron, these little dots that I'm making, if they are showing up, they're going to wash away. So I'm just marking 1 inch from the sides of the corners that aren't the fold. So these are from the free flowing corners. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Just going to mark roughly 1 inch by 1 inch. And I'm doing this folded in half so that if our markings are a little bit off, both sides will still match. I'm going to take my ruler and I am simply going to, I see my 2 dots here. I'm going to use them as 2 points along my ruler, take my rotary cutter and trim. Same thing with the other side. We're going to use 1 dot and the other dot. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to do a perfect 45-degree angle, that is totally okay. In my studio, I worry less about perfection. But now we have a pendant that has a cute little angle on it. So we're going to go ahead and do that for the rest of these pendants. So now that we have all of our shapes cut out and they're super cute, the next thing that we're going to need to do, we're going to fold over the width edges of our rectangle. We're going to do this by folding it under. And of course you want to fold it so that it's not folding onto the right side of your fabric. We're going to fold it under so that we can have nice finished sides with our project. And we want to fold it under about 1/4 of an inch. So if you have a binding tool, now would be a great time to use it. I'm just going to use my ruler and line it up. We can keep this kind of on the front side. Having the ruler is going to make sure that your banner stays nice and even, which is always good. Perfect. Okay, and you're going to do this on both edges. So now we need to do it on this side as well. Okay, and you're going to do this with all of the rest of your pendants as well. So I've just pressed down the sides for all of our little pendants. And now I'm just going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge. We just finished sewing the edges of our little pendants. So the next thing we need to do is change gears a little bit. We need to prepare our letters and our dessert shapes to go onto these pendants. So that requires Fusible applique. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we are going to need to trace all of our shapes, so all of our letters, all of our dessert shapes, onto our Fusible applique paper. Keep in mind that all of the templates that are in the pattern are going to be flipped in reverse. So all the letters are going to be backwards. This is because we are going to adhere this glue to the back side of the fabric so that when we cut it out, all the letters are going the right way. So let's jump on over and get started. And I can actually see through this paper pretty well, so I don't need a window. I'm just going to go ahead and trace it right here. So you can see all of my letters are backwards, and we're going to trace them directly onto the paper backwards as well. Here we go. The other thing I'm going to recommend as you are drawing your dessert shapes, keep them grouped by color. This will make it easier to attach them to the fabric, and label each shape so that you can keep track of the diagrams in the pattern to know exactly where they go. It's easy to mix up these shapes once they're all cut out. So I personally like to keep them labeled as best I can. It just helps with the process. Okay, I'm going to cut out all of these based on color group. This is most important with our dessert shapes. So in this corner, I have dark aqua. And I'm leaving just a little bit of space around them just to make it easier. Might need to trim it more once we have our fabric to attach to, but for now, that's okay. These are all dark pink in this corner. Just going to need a little closer just because... There we go. Trim the edge just a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, this light yellow is this entire section here. So, and I tried to group them in the pattern together too, so that it'd be a little bit easier for you. Okay. What I'm going to highly recommend is, so this is my ironing pad. You're going to use a piece of parchment paper to protect both your pad and your iron itself. So we're just going to make like a little sandwich here. I don't really want to tool it, so I'm just going to flip it over. And we'll grab a second piece of paper, and we're just going to keep doing the same thing. Okay, so we have all of our shapes that coordinate with each of our colors. Reminder that you want to fuse. So there's the side that we drew on, which is just like a backing paper. And then we need to do our first glue. So this shiny side, you can see with like the webbing, this needs to go on the back of the fabric. You don't want this on the front of the fabric because we want the front of the fabric to be seen. So be sure to align all of your fabrics so that this is all going to be on the back side, if you can tell. I use a lot of batik, so sometimes it's hard to tell, but some of them will be very obvious. Now, and you can also trim these up a little bit. You don't need a ton of room. You can actually cut them exactly to the shape if you want to, just to make sure that they all fit. There we go. Here's our yellow one. I'm going to trim the top of this cookie. Let's make sure the yellow is, I think this is the correct way. Actually going to separate our cookies, well, our cupcake from our cookie chips. I'm just going to cut this space here so it's really going to be like on the fabric. Okay, there we go. This is my other clean piece of parchment paper. I'm going to very carefully and gently just lay it down. You can still see through it, so I can make sure that all of my pieces are exactly where I want them. And then I'm going to press. You just want to press for a few seconds on each piece. You don't want to burn them. You just want to activate that glue. And of course, if your fusible web is different, be sure to follow the instructions for your fusible web. Okay, just make sure it's nice and adhered. No corners are coming up. Okay, it's looking good. Now we're going to fussy cut each of these, and we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with our letters. So let's cut these all out, and then I'll meet you back here. I just wanted to note that M is going to be your widest letter. I happened to cut my dark pink into 4-inch strips. I just thought this was going to be the best for me, but you can cut one big square or individual 4-inch squares, whatever works best for you. But this M, I had to really cut right on the lines in order to get it to fit into the 4-inch square. So just so you know, you might need to just trim it right up, but it should still fit right inside. Okay, on to pressing these down. We've cut all of our shapes. I've also sorted our desserts into piles based on which dessert. So group A, group B, group C, and group D. So now we need to start laying out our banner. I'm going to do 3 at a time. So we're going to do the first 3, which are going to be yellow, pink, and then blue. I'm going to recommend folding each of these in half, aligning the bottoms. And you want to make sure that the seam is on the inside. So you want the nice part on the outside. So we have our first 3 pendants. Here's what we're going to want to do. We're going to take our ruler again, and we are going to mark. I'm going to actually just fold this right in half, do a little finger press. Align these as best you can. Don't worry. We're going to be sewing them in, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to draw a 2-inch line so we make sure that we leave room for our rope. Okay, and again, this is a Frixion pen. It comes out with heat. So this will leave us room to flip. And you're going to do that on both sides. But it's going to give us a way to kind of center our shapes as we're applying them as well. Okay, so again, the first 3 pendants are going to be yellow, pink, and then blue. We want to try to align our letters and our desserts so that they're not within oh, I'd say 1/2 inch or so of the border. We want to leave just a little bit space, so try to center them as best you can. If you want to actually like measure and find the center, you can, but personally, I'm kind of chill with my projects. So on one side, we're going to have MER for Mary, which is going to be this pile. So we're going to do M on the yellow, E on the pink, and R on the blue. And I'm actually going to I'm going to do this right on my ironing pad, okay? So I'm going to recommend opening up your banner because this guideline is actually going to disappear once we add heat, and we don't want to erase the guideline on the other side. So I'm going to recommend actually lining up your letters with this guideline. This is 2.5 inches from center. You could always do 2 inches from center as well if you want them a little bit higher, but I like this spacing. Then we're going to use our parchment paper, and we are just going to press and hold each letter for a few seconds to anchor it in place. This will also remove the guideline on this side. Okay, beautiful. So now we're actually going to flip these around, and we are going to place the other side. And again, use your diagram. Yellow, we're going to have our cupcake, and then a bunch of macarons on pink, and then the letter E is going to be here. So I definitely want to show you how to do a cupcake, the macaron, and a cookie. And then, of course, the other cupcake is going to be the same as this one, just in different colors. But I want to make sure that you see how those work. Let's start by assembling our cupcake. The first cupcake that we're going to assemble is cupcake A. So let's grab all of the pieces that we need for cupcake A. So I've labeled all of the parts for A based on the order in which they should go down. So A1, this piece should go down first. I'm actually going to take the back off. Okay. That's our cupcake base. Okay, now we need to add the little cupcake wrapper folds. It's probably one of the more tedious parts of this applique. Okay, so A2 is going to go on this side. Everything's in a little bit in reverse. A2. A3. A4. A5. And A6. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this parchment paper. And before I glue it down on its final, I want to just give it a quick glue here. And if I need to trim any edges, I want to do that. In case these didn't line up, in case we didn't cut perfectly, it's just going to make life a little bit easier. Just a quick hit. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. Quick touch. Okay, because you don't want to lose all the glue on the back side. Clean up your edges if anything isn't lining up. If anything has shifted. This here's a little low. We'll just cut it down. It'll be okay. So, let's line it up. We're going to need our base frosting, which is this bright pink. It can overlap with the blue a bit. Here we go. A8. is our next layer of frosting. Yay. A9 is next. And of course we want a cherry on top. And I'm actually going to shift it all up a bit because it's a little close to my bottom edge. So that's okay. I want it like there. Perfect. And it's centered left and right. Get this frosting to come down. Get it just the way you want it. Macarons are next, which are part D. So we're going to start with D1, which I believe is yellow. Sure. The base of our first macaron. And let's make sure we start at a good height. Oh, this is going to be the frosting. This is going to be in the middle. Let's move that up. D2 and D3 are our cookie bases for the macarons. Okay, this is the bottom of the cookie. And this is the top of our cookie. Okay, macaron number 1. Go team. Next one is going to be our blue macaron. And you can decide whether you want these like stacked on top of each other or kind of floating in midair. I think I'm going to kind of, let's see how this pans out. So 5 and 6 are going to be our cookies. I kind of almost want them to look like they're stacking on top of each other. Just a little bit. Let's see how that looks. It's the part of the project where we can get a little creative. Oh gosh, I just love this blue one. Okay, so yeah, we're going to tuck the frosting down a little bit. And let's have them kind of wiggle and wobble like they're toppling a little bit. Okay. Little topsy-turvy macaron. There's our blue one. Come down just a little bit. I'm gonna curve that edge. If you see something that like looks like it just needs to be touched up, touch it up before you get it all glued down. Okay, we're gonna shift down a little bit again. Shift as many times as you need on these ones, especially these dessert ones. These ones are gonna be a little bit more finicky than the letters. There we go. I'm going to just shift them down a little bit. There we go. And we have to fit in our pink one. It's the middle frosting of our pink one. Kind of eyeball it here. Let's try like there-ish. And the top of this cookie. How cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, super happy with that. And I think we need to take off the back of our E. And I'm just going to match it up with the top of that line just to kind of keep things easy. We are going to very carefully cover this paper because we don't want anything to move. And notice I'm going to just, oh no, we're okay. Okay. Just going to press down and hold. Same thing with this one. I'm just going to press and hold. I'm not moving it back and forth because I don't want the pieces to move. We have our shapes. This should match the diagram that you have in your pattern, which is great. I'm super excited about that. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. When I get to the chocolate chip cookie, I'll show you how to do the cookie. The other cupcake's the same, just in different colors. So just repeat that process for that cupcake and go on ahead and apply the rest of your fusible web to the rest of your pendants on your banner. It's time to do our chocolate chip cookie on the Merry and Bright side. So it's going to be on a blue base. We're going to start with B1, which is our cookie base. Okay, we're going to put our cookie right in the middle. So cute. Okay, and now we have all of our little tiny chocolate chips. These do not have to be perfectly placed exactly where the diagram are. Spread them around like you would any other cookie, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and kind of space them however we feel looks good. You can look at the diagram to help you, but if they're not in the exact same place, we're not stressing about it. I think the hardest part's going to be taking the little backs off of each of these little chocolate chips. I do tend to find that the chips look nice if you kind of do 2 toward the top and bottom and then 3 kind of in the middle. The spacing kind of works out nice that way. Okay. I'm happy with that spacing. I think that looks good. I might actually put this one up and this one down because it's a little bit bigger. Yeah, okay, I think we like that just to set everything in place with our iron. Press and hold so those chips don't move, and then you're good to go. Okay, we've finished each of the pendants on our banner. Now is the time to add any sort of embellishments. If you want to add little embroidered sprinkles, you know, with like a little scatter or seed stitch to the top of your cupcake, by all means, go for it. If you want to add any beads, any sort of decoration, now is the time. I am simply going to just stitch around the edges of my letters and my cupcakes. You can use either a satin stitch or a straight stitch, totally up to you. Just to kind of tack them in place. This heat and bond is supposed to be ultra permanent, but just in case. And I know I won't get a ton of wear and tear, but it doesn't hurt just to stitch down the edges and make it look a little bit more finished. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So the next part of our project is we are going to actually fold our banners right sides together. You're going to mark about 2 inches from that center fold again. So it can be 2, 2.5. Doesn't really make a difference. And it doesn't need to be a line all the way across. Just put a little dash, okay? And then we're going to stitch at 1/4 inch, going away from the fold, down this line, along the edge, along the bottom, along this edge, and back up, and we're stopping here at this little dash. Once you're all done marking each of the sides with a little dash at 2 inches, what you're gonna wanna do is grab some pins, or my favorite, some clips. Make sure that everything's aligned the way you want it, and just put a couple clips in place on either side to make sure that nothing moves. Use as many as you feel comfortable with before you start stitching around the edge. The next thing we're going to do is flip this inside out. So we want to make sure that the right sides are back out again. So you're going to go, there's a little gap in the top because we didn't stitch it down. So there's a gap here. You're going to go ahead and pull the insides back out again. And I have a little corner poker, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it to just pop these corners out a little bit, give them some good structure. Perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to recommend pressing this before the next step to get it nice and flat and to get any creases out. Okay, I just pressed this so that it's nice and flat. Again, I have this fold at the top up here. And from this center fold, you want to mark 1.5 inches and draw a line right across. This is again with my Frixion pen that comes away with heat. And you only have to do this on one side, okay? So we have our line. Now we are going to stitch across here and then top stitch all around the edges right back to this line again to hold everything in place. Okay, so I've stitched right around the edges, done a top stitch, and now we still have space for a string or garland right at the top. And don't forget to erase your marked line before you're all done so that it doesn't show up in your project. Okay, so it's time to string up our garland. I originally wanted to use jute, which is like a twine type of string to string this up, but I'm having trouble getting the palms to go through it, so we're going to use just 6-strand embroidery floss and see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and string it in order. I have all of my little panels right in order here, and I do have my floss on a needle, an embroidery needle, so that I can string them through the palms, but let's just go ahead and get started. Just to make it easier. There we go. Okay, now I want to, because I don't want the little balls to get lost in the sleeve, let's go with one of the big balls first. We'll try to kind of get it centered-ish. There we go. That's so cute. We'll just do one ball in between, and we'll just keep kind of alternating. I think that'll be cute. Okay, pantyhose time. Pantyhose. Let's string one of the light green. Okay. Super cute. We're just going to keep alternating panels and felt balls. Okay, so let's just keep going. It's time to celebrate. You made a reversible banner. If you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to get your free downloadable template this month, the month of July 2024. It's going to be available for free as my gift to you this month. And that link to this project template, this project instructions is going to be linked in the description below. After this month, it's going into my online shop where you can still access it, but it's just going to be a few extra dollars. Be sure to stay tuned all week long. Stacy and I have a ton of videos that we're turning out for you this month so you can get caught up on your holiday creations. Tomorrow, Stacy's going to be sharing some craftables that you can make with your Cricut machine. So be sure to tune into her channel, which I also have linked in the description below, so that you can see her holiday craft that she's going to make with her Cricut machine. And if you are loving this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love to share even more content with you, and we've got a ton of great holiday content and holiday crafts coming up this month. Thanks again for following along, friends. Until next time, happy stitching.